Well, here we go again.
I start to sail along these ocean waves. Nobody knows how to find us. It's turning out to be a perfect day. I just wanna leave our normal lives behind us.
Hopefully I can add some craziness to this channel. Hopefully this works, because the last time I tried recording this, it didn't work. It's already 10:16 at night on February 28th. This video is supposed to go up March 1st. So, let's see if this actually works. But I basically just wanted to share this video with you. I know I've got my grandma sweater on. Yay! But basically I just wanted to make this video to share part of my life with you. And the information, I want to keep this video as accurate as I can to myself. I'll be talking about my own experiences here. Your experiences may be different. Also, if you have any questions after the video, feel free to ask me in the comment section. I'll leave the comment section open as long as I can. I would love to make more videos talking about this and sharing my experiences with everybody. No questions off limits, and that may be a bad idea, but who knows, right? Now, at the time I'm recording this video, I don't know what I'm going to name it when I release it. You may know from the title, you may not. I'm not sure. Either way, I wanted to say I'm gender fluid. Now, I do want to say, you may see me glancing off this direction. That's just because I have the notes that I have taken written just off camera, so I'll be glancing over to the notes. There's a few things I did want to cover in my video, so I've got notes just to kind of... But I do also want to say this video is kind of difficult for me to make, partially just because it took me so long to get to this point where I realized this about myself, and partially because it's such a... I don't know. It's demonized in politics, I guess, at the time that I'm recording this video. I also want to say I realize that this video will probably be a bit awkward just because I am awkward. So just get ready for large amounts of, different things making this video more awkward than it should be. But as I said before, I'm gender fluid. I've always been this way, even if I didn't realize it at the time. I'll get into a few details and stories a bit later on in the video. But I also want to clarify, I want to reiterate, if you have any questions, regardless of whether it's questions during the video or after the video, please feel free to ask me down below in the comment section. Just keep in mind, everyone has their own experiences, so I am only speaking for myself here. Now, for those of you asking, I am still the same person I was before. I wasn't hiding anything from anyone. I just did not realize this about myself until recently. The fact that I'm saying this now, so many years after coming out as pan before, just means that I'm figuring this part of myself out now, and that I'm comfortable sharing this part of myself with all of you. As I said before, I'm gender fluid. I've said that a few times already. I know. Sue me. But for those of you asking, the term gender fluid basically means that my gender is basically changing over time. Sometimes I'll feel like a guy, sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll be in between guy and girl, sometimes I'll be, somewhere else. Just think of it this way, since I don't have any, whatever prepared. Guy, girl. There's a line connecting them. And then somewhere out here is non-binary. Some days I'll feel more masculine. Some days I'll feel like a guy. Sometimes I'll feel like a girl. Some days I'll be somewhere in between. And some days I'll be like off here doing my own thing, thinking about garlic bread or something. But basically the fact that the term gender fluid basically means the gender is constantly changing over time. Whatever the case is, that is who I am in the moment. Now, the pronouns that I want used are always changing. As with the gender, pronouns are changing. I don't mind you using, like if you're talking about me, I don't mind you saying he to talk about me. At this point in time, I don't mind you using she to talk about me. I don't mind you using they to talk about me. If you're talking about me and you notice somebody else says the pronoun that you don't want to use, at this point, I don't care if you correct them or not. I'm not asking you to. Like I said, I don't mind what pronouns you use. I'm not asking you to correct me. Just use whatever. If we're talking in person, or if you're talking about me in the comment section, if I deem it necessary, I'll be the one to correct people. I don't expect anyone else to try and correct people. I'm not expecting people to correct anyone about my pronouns, partially just because I do use all pronouns at this point, and partially just because I'm okay with any pronouns being used. Now, some of you may be asking, how did you know? It was a bit sudden. Looking back at it, the realization probably shouldn't have been all that sudden for me. But if I can be completely honest, this is something that, I hadn't really sat down and thought about, even as far back as when I came out as pan in about 2012-ish. And yes, I know, the last coming out video that I had uploaded was released on this channel after 2012. I get it. That was re-uploaded. And don't worry, I'm still pan. I don't think that will be changing anytime soon. But again, I'll keep you updated. At this point in time, I'm keeping that video on my channel as documentation. Not only for myself, but for all of you as well. With this coming out video, for me it was a bit sudden. I had a lot of small realizations over time. I just didn't really put everything together until the end of January 2026. Over time, there were a few small things that I've noticed about myself. And, the first thing I noticed was basically that I never really felt comfortable in my own body. There were several times that I've noticed that about myself, even as far back as when I was a kid. When I went through, whatever the natural changes are between childhood and adulthood, I kept noticing, there were certain actresses, certain female singers, where I would be jealous of how they looked. Some days I'd want to be a girl, some days I'd want to be a boy. The constant changing was something that, basically it always existed since I started, basically since I started turning into an adult. But, as with a lot of other people who are about my age, maybe a bit older, I didn't really have anyone to talk to about these feelings. I knew what these feelings were up here. I just didn't feel like I could talk them out. I didn't have an understanding of them. Just because I didn't really see anyone who was, trans or gender fluid when I was a kid. Even as an adult, I didn't really see many people in the public eye or people that I knew who came out to me as them being trans or non-binary or gender fluid or some form of gender non-conforming. Granted, I knew that there were certain celebrities who a lot of times dressed a little bit more androgynously. David Bowie's a big example of that. But the thing is that even up until now, I never really knew that much about any of these people that lived in the public eye. I just never really had anyone to connect with up until recently about that kind of thing. I've never really felt that I wanted certain body parts or I wanted other body parts that I didn't have. Like I said, I've never felt comfortable in my own body. I'm not going to go into detail about what those are. Some of you may have an idea, but I'm trying to keep this as, PG as I can, just for YouTube, so, basically, due to these feelings of not feeling like I was born in the right body, combined with the fact that I never really had anyone to connect with, never really had anyone to talk to about this, never really had anyone to look up to. I didn't know how to express myself on that. I didn't know anything about all that. So it just made it more difficult for me. So it just took longer for me to realize who I was. Another thing, some of you may have noticed that I've shaved. I've never really liked how my jawline looked. When I was younger and thinner, my jawline was a bit more pronounced. I never liked it. In fact, recently, I realized that I grew out my facial hair due to the fact that I never really liked how my jawline looked. Another thing, and some of you may think this is unrelated at first. Some of you will probably catch on right away. Some of you are probably, when you hear the setup for this, you'll probably realize where this is going. But when I was in high school, I was 120 pounds at the start of high school. So 9th grade, 120 pounds, all the way up until the beginning of my swimming season in 12th grade. Then I started bulking up. But when I was on the swim team, I started out at 120 pounds. I bulked up to 135, which means I just was never really as big as I am now. I was lean. I was a bit muscular, not much, but a bit muscular when I graduated, just due to how I worked out in my final year of high school. But when I was on the swim team, they wanted me wearing the thigh-length Speedo stuff. Don't worry, it was not the bikini style one. I wasn't scarring anyone. Nobody could see my privates. But in addition to the Speedo, they also wanted me to shave my body hair for one of the final swim meets of the season. Here's the thing with that. Not only did I feel better wearing that Speedo than I did wearing regular swimming trunks. I mean, there's something just about wearing that Speedo that just made me feel better. I can't explain it. At this point, I can't. But I also did not realize this at the time. Shaving my body hair for that final set of meets of the season, I just enjoyed how that felt. Something about that just gave me euphoria, I guess the best word to describe it. And of course, having said that, I may not be able to cover everything in this video. This video is already long enough as is. I'm planning on covering more in upcoming videos. But I'm only explaining the next part just because I want to explain how I felt growing up, so other people know what I went through, and so other people realize that they're not alone. Growing up, I never really, like I said, never really felt comfortable in my own body. I went through life thinking that was normal to want to have been born in a different body, never realizing that it was some sort of dysmorphia until 2026, end of January 2026. Everything just sort of clicked. I have my therapy that I go to, usually every Monday, but basically this just sort of clicked in therapy on January 26th of 2026. I did my research. Since then, I've been happier. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when I was younger. I haven't noticed any of those symptoms recently. I wound up doing the research, talked to my therapist February 2nd, 2026, which was the following Monday. And I seem to be doing a lot better now. Like I said, things just sort of clicked. January 26th. After that, I've started making a few changes in my life, starting with my clothes. Like I said, got the grandma sweater. I've got a few other sweaters. I've got some more feminine clothing. I've got the jewelry. Yeah. This is one of the pieces of jewelry I've got. You'll probably see other stuff. Got my nails. I'm planning on making YouTube videos just to keep everybody updated. Just to share my growth, just so I have the documentation, and just to keep everybody else updated on all that. But also, I want to reiterate, I know not everybody's experiences are the same. If you're questioning yourself, find somebody you can trust to talk to, whether that's family, if you feel comfortable talking to them, a doctor, therapist, people who are in, one of the parts of the LGBT community, whoever it is. But I can't trust this enough. Talking with people that you trust is something I cannot stress enough. Talking with people you can trust will help you more than you realize when it comes to figuring out who you are. Just that communication. But like I said, when I was in middle school, that's when I first noticed this. I never liked the way my body looked. Whenever I changed, I would find a way to either go into a stall and change for gym class. I'd go to the other side of the locker room and change. Some way of hiding. And don't worry, I'm not going to go into detail about the different body parts. YouTube calls that a no-no, so I'm trying to keep this PG. But I will say there are a few people where I wish that I had their body. I realize that just by saying this, there will be a few people here on YouTube who will probably try to make fun of me for this. I'm ready to deal with that. Just keep in mind, I am making this video and talking about this in an attempt to make this a better place. And I want to make this a place where people can reach out to talk and to ask questions, either in the comments section of my videos or over on my Discord, and the links to all that will be in the comment or in the video description. I want this to be a safe space for people to talk and for people to open up. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Growing up, there are a few people where I wish I had their bodies. First person, in a way I almost kind of hate admitting this. I don't know anything about this person's music. But Britney Spears on the first CD that she released, I don't know if like jealousy or what would be a good way of describing it. Then I saw the Lord of the Rings movies, Liv Tyler, Kate Blanchett. I always thought it was more like a distraction to them. I was just focused on them. Like I said, I don't know if jealousy or if it was just me. Some sort of dysphoria, basically. Also, on that note, The Matrix, when I finally saw that, there was something about the character Switch, and later on I found out the reason why, but there was something about the character of Switch in the original Matrix movie that I just resonated with. Later on I found out that Switch was supposed to be a representation of a trans person. Like the original intent for the character of Switch was somebody that was supposed to be somewhat gender fluid or trans, where they appear as a man in the real world and a woman inside the Matrix. Which, again, I kind of resonated with that. Another thing, I know I mentioned this before, my jawline, I never liked that. I've always wanted to change. I wanted to change certain parts of my body, my jaw, certain other things. Even when I was young, I thought my jawline was more masculine than what I wanted. And in all honesty, there have been a lot of things that I've noticed like the reason I grew my facial hair out is just because of the fact that I never liked my jaw to begin with. So, with that being said, I want to say that I probably could have noticed that I'm gender fluid or non-binary. The only reason I didn't come to that realization any sooner is just because I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to, and I feel like I didn't feel like I had anyone to talk to about how I felt. Because I didn't feel like I could talk about how I felt, I just didn't connect the dots until, like I said, end of January 2026. Once I realized that all of these feelings were similar, I did research so I understood what dysphoria was. I looked into the information about all these different things, taking notes along the way and writing things down. And I compared my notes to how I felt. And then I spoke to my therapist about it. I was open with them about how I felt while describing all the things that I've learned. And this helped me kind of figure things out. And I got the diagnosis for dysphoria on the chance that I do wind up getting surgery in the future. Now, if you do have any questions about how you identify or whether or not you're feeling dysphoria, find people to speak with. I'm leaving the comment section open for as long as I can, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask there. Now, I understand that I was lucky enough to have people show up in my life at the right time, and that people started showing up in my life right when I started putting the pieces together. But I do also want to say YouTube is an option for people who want to learn more about what these feelings are. There are LGBTQ plus people who do post videos on their experiences, whether they post about how they question things, how they came out to people that they knew, or even how they've transitioned. Now, I do want to clarify that just because I had all of these things happen throughout my life, where I felt uncomfortable in my own skin, I felt like I should have been different somehow, combined with the fact that I didn't really have anyone to talk to that would understand, I just didn't understand what these feelings were. I was finally able to sit down and just kind of think everything through, compare how I felt to compare how other people's stories were on YouTube. I did the research. I spoke to people about it. And I'm figuring things out as I go. I also want to clarify that I came to the conclusion myself, if you ask questions to me, I cannot say that you are or are not a certain way. Only you can say that. Nobody pressured me into a decision about who I am. I am not trying to pressure anyone else into a decision about who they are. This was all my own decision about who I am and what all this means to me. And that does not change who I actually am. The only difference now is that I have a better idea on who I actually am. In every conversation I've heard about trans people, on what other people say, every conversation I've heard about trans people, about non-binary people, about gender-fluid people, about, this, that, or the other, I've always heard a group of people saying, oh, you can't be that way, or stuff like that. As if they were saying that the people in question can't be that way or shouldn't be that way because they're not used to it. Every time I hear that, it does hurt me a little bit right here in my heart. But I'm fully expecting that phrase to pop up in conversation about me. Though this isn't the only phrase that I've heard, I understand a lot of what people mean by that. A lot of the time when that pops up in conversation, stuff like that means something along the lines of, oh, I'm not used to you being this way and it makes me uncomfortable. You should go back to being the way that I'm used to you being. Now, I'm not telling people what to think. You're free to think whatever you want. I am, however, saying that I would much rather have people asking questions about what it means for me to be this way, instead of hearing, oh, you can't be that way, and having people be dismissive. Now, I've personally have had a few people tell me, oh, it's confusing, so I'm not going to do it. And my response is that it's literally about respect. Either you respect me as a person, or I kick you out of my life. Like I said, I don't mind the questions, but you don't tell me who I am. Unfortunately, I've had to grow a bit more firm with my convictions, at least when it comes to who I keep in my life. But I also know that sometimes mistakes do happen, and somebody may accidentally do something that triggers dysphoria or hurts me in some way. And if somebody I know decides to intentionally misgender me, which it'll be difficult, at this point anyway, but if somebody I know decides to intentionally misgender me, or decides that my life and my lived experiences are not important enough to even try, or they intentionally disrespect me, then I have the difficult decision whether I keep them in my life or not. Even since coming out and dressing how I want, even in my grandma sweater, the difficult part is just dealing with the amount of rude comments. Of course, some days are easier than others, but every comment does take some sort of toll on me. Every rude comment, no matter where it comes from, and whether it's intentional or not, does hurt to some degree. On that note, I want to say, I am who I am. Any changes that I make will be documented in any of the videos that I release. I've got my gaming videos where I still need to catch up on some of the old footage that I have, so that'll take some time to really get caught up with who I am. But my vlogs and the videos on this channel should be fairly recent from here on out. I'm more than willing to take all of you along for the ride. So if you have any questions for me, or if there's anything you want me to talk about in upcoming videos, feel free to let me know in the comments section or over on my Discord. I'm going to be as open as I can about what I can talk about here on YouTube, within reason. There are a few things that I will not talk about or cannot talk about, but I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. Just let me know what you want me to talk about, whether it's a question or just a certain topic you want me to talk about. I'll do my best to talk about it in upcoming videos. I will also say that I'm working on, there's a few videos that I promised that I'm still working on. So keep an eye out for those. Otherwise, I want you to feel free to subscribe. Give the video a like if you want to see more of this stuff. Subscribe so you get notified. Go check out my Discord and follow my Discord, because I post all my videos on there as well. Because we all know that sometimes YouTube likes not pushing videos out. Other than that, I do look forward to seeing y'all in my next video, whether it's on this channel or on either of my other two channels. I do look forward to seeing from you. I do look forward to hearing from you. Let's see where this goes.